When we started talking about.
All right, the meeting will come to order. This is the Bristol Development Review Board is July 25th, 2023. We took a little time to review Attorney Jim Dumont's letter on behalf of several clients that had just come in recently and the majority of the board hadn't seen. So we have a quorum. We have 4 people. We're waiting for Tom Wells. He was there at the first meeting. Maybe we'll see him in this meeting. Maybe we won't. If we don't see him in this meeting, he can review the tape so he can still participate. Any additions or changes to the agenda? All right, so old business. This is a continuation of a conditional use permit application as permit application number 23-301. Masterson Development Properties LLC, Lower Notch Road, parcel number 090227, requesting conditional use for a business yard for the Bristol Unified Development Regulations, Article 3, Section 350. Since the first hearing, Jim Dumont has entered his appearance on behalf of Matthew and Caitlin Cusack, Tom Fox, Helen Young, Beth Ekrus, Keith, and Maya Schnell. The applicant made some provide some greater detail and submitted it to the board. Dated July 20th, 2023. So Greg, why don't you walk us through that in summary fashion? The board's had a chance to see that.
Can I just read the letter?
Sure.
Okay. I'm Greg McKenney with Murray Masterson here with Josh Masterson representing him tonight. And here's the statement I provided. So I'm providing this letter in advance of the 725 DRB meeting on behalf of Josh Masterson of Masterson Excavation and Masterson's Land Development Properties LLC. Following up to the May 30th board meeting, I'm providing the following information in an effort to help clarify this conditional use application. The property is a 72.36 acre parcel that was purchased by Masterson Land Development Properties in 2019 from the A. Johnson Company. The property has been subdivided into 3 separate lots. Lot 1, about 57 acres, now owned by Josh and Gretchen Masterson, which contains their primary residence. Lot 2 is where the gravel contractor yard, business yard exists, which will be utilized by Masterson and Son Excavation. Lot 3 is an undeveloped parcel along Lower Notch Road. This application addresses the proposed contractor yard on a portion 1.5 of thereabouts acres of Lot 1 and all of Lot 2. The yard will be used by Masterson and Son Excavation, which is owned by Josh Masterson. The business currently operates out of their shop and office on North Street and employs between 15 and 20 full and part-time, including office staff members. The limited space of this location is why the applicant is applying for the conditional use application. At this time, primary business operations will remain at the North Street location. For those unfamiliar, Masterson Excavation provides commercial and residential earthworks and excavation services, which occur at specific project sites. The primary uses of the contractor's yard will consist of storing equipment, storing job materials, and stockpiling and screening topsoil. Specifically, on-site equipment would consist of items such as excavators, trailers, skid steers, plows, sanders, dumpsters, conic storage containers. Job materials are generally delivered to specific project sites, but surplus materials including pipe, fabric, concrete, waste blocks, traffic cones, etc., will be found on the site. The intent of the soil stockpile is to have approximately 1,000 cubic yards of material available for use on Masterson Excavation projects. These soils are stripped from other project sites, hauled to the contractor's yard, and screened and stored until they are needed for use on other Masterson Excavation projects. To clarify, this project is not a proposed gravel pit, nor a retail location. There is no private sale of topsoil that is stored on site, nor is there sale of earthen material extracted from the site. During the first hearing, it was evident that the noise and traffic were the biggest concerns of nearby residents. Below is a summary of the revised volumes, traffic volumes anticipated, and a statement on how to better mitigate noise at the site. First, I would add that in the month leading up to the 5:30 hearing date, Josh was in the final stages of completing the construction of his home, which certainly contributed additional traffic volumes on Lower Notch Road and the noise levels at the site, not unlike the other new developments witnessed along Lower Notch Road. This does not account for the tailgate slamming, which mostly occurred on 5-4, 5-5, and 5-8, when approximately 66 loads of topsoil were brought to the site. This material was brought in for both personal use at Josh's home and for business use. A review of video surveillance at the property indicated a total of 132 one-way trips were made by dump trucks at the project site on 5-4, 5, and 5-8, with a maximum of 80 trips occurring in a single day. Josh stated that this was the most he had ever hauled into the site. Our revised application will reflect that this 3-day average truck volume would only occur a maximum of 2 times per year, and a daily average of 2.5 one-way trips would be generated by dump or semi-tractor trailer trucks. Additionally, work trucks and 1-ton pickups would generate an average of 8.5 one-way trips per day. Please note, neighbors will also experience additional residential traffic, including UPS, FedEx, fuel delivery, and personal vehicles that have business logos that is not accounted for in this conditional use application. Given the traffic volumes outlined above, the noise impact from the engines, backup alarms, tailgate slamming experienced by neighbors on May 4th, 5th, and 8th will not become a new daily normal. An event like this would occur up to 2 times annually. In addition, Josh has begun implementing electrical shut-off switches or backup alarms on his equipment. This would not eliminate all backup alarms, as on-road vehicles will still have them, but would help minimize noise levels. And I just add, following the 5:30 hearing, the board member stated that this application needs to better address the traffic and the noise. After speaking with Josh in greater detail, we have refined the daily traffic volume and provided a more realistic value than the maximum anticipated daily traffic volume that was reflected in the initial application. Secondly, Josh has made an effort to show how noise volumes will be mitigated and minimized, including refining the truck traffic volume, eliminating backup alarms where possible, and by defining the amount of anticipated topsoil volume that he plans to turn over annually. No noise study has been performed or provided, since we would like to first present the revised traffic and noise information to the board. And lastly, I would just reiterate that Josh,
Say that last part again there.
no noise study has been performed or provided,
Yep.
since we would like to first present the revised traffic and noise information to the board. Lastly, I would just reiterate that Josh and his family now reside at the property since the completion of their home around the end of the around the time of the 5:30 hearing. So neighbors can expect additional traffic and noise associated with a residential use.
So Greg, I was a little unclear on when you say a 3-day average truck volume, what are you saying it is the 3-day average truck volume that would occur a maximum only 1 or 2 times a year? Is that 80 trips a day?
I guess I would say the combination of 132 in that 3-day window.
So 132 divided by 3?
Yeah. As a 3-day average. So there might be a single day average that is higher.
Yeah, no, I get it. I was just I wasn't sure what the 3-day average was that you were referring to.
Yeah.
And so you're saying that 3-day average of 132 would be something that would be experienced at most twice a year.
Yes.
Okay. Thanks for clarifying that.
Mhm.
And that's one way, right?
Yes.
Okay. Could you explain how the topsoil screening is actually accomplished? What's done?
Yeah, I guess I'm gonna defer to Josh on
Sure.
that.
Yeah, Josh.
Just a vibrator screen
Yeah.
with a excavator loading it
Yeah,
and a loader cleaning it out.
and that,
So it'd be two pieces of
and
equipment.
that screener's on site.
Yeah. Yeah,
Is there-
I rent it,
Mhm.
twice a year usually.
Is it multiple screeners? Cause you have
No,
to
just
down,
one.
down the size, or do you just change the sieve?
Just change the sieve.
Okay. Can you, identify what? Is there a particular size, or how would one refer to the screener? I mean, I have a sense of how, loaders go in size or how dump trucks go in size. Is there a way you can identify how the capacity, or is it done by capacity? How's the screener measure? Are there different sizes?
We usually get their biggest screen at Milton Rental.
Yeah,
What's the size of the motor on the side of it? It's like a generator
It's a
motor.
diesel motor.
Okay.
I don't know the size of it.
yeah,
but
I
it's-
have no idea how to,
Yeah.
does it have a
it's-
certain capacity or?
You fit a loader inside of it, so I think it's a 4 or 5 yard. Bin on it.
Hopper? Yeah.
Yeah,
And how many days a year would you anticipate using that
for
thing?
screening, probably 3 days each time is usually what we've done in the past.
3 days each time? with-
Each time of the rental, yeah.
So,
No,
and
wait,
you- excuse me,
Keep
and
going.
you said that you rent it twice a year,
Yeah.
and so we're talking about 6 days of
6
operation.
days, yes.
Okay.
And what size soil do you have? Could it be described as gravel,
No, it's just, it's topsoil.
which is,
The deck is a 3/4 screen sieve.
3/4 inch.
so
It's fine sediment.
It's fine.
fine sediment, less than a millimeter, would you say? Or,
He said 3/4 inch, right?
pardon?
He said 3/4 inch is the size of the sieves opening. Right.
So,
Yeah.
so you might, so what you're putting in, it might be as large as 3/4 inch?
Yeah, it sieves down to that and then tailings come off the backside, whatever doesn't fit through that deck size. So basically it breaks it down to fine material, so it doesn't have rocks in it.
Any other questions, guys? John, you have any questions for Josh or Greg? You're muted. There you
Not
go.
at- Yeah, sorry, not at this exact moment, but I'm gonna have some questions. Is this the moment for them?
Sure. I mean, the revised presentation is complete, or at least reasonably complete. So if you have additional questions, might as well start now and get the board questions out before we turn to the gallery.
All right. I'm just looking at your latest submission, the thing you read. Looking at the noise and traffic impacts, it was just, you measured that just for those 3 days in May?
We have some video surveillance at the site, but I did outline the days where Josh was hauling topsoil to the site. And that was the greatest truck volume into the site.
Right, so what about, I mean, there's been operations there for a while. Why only those 3 days?
Because I was just trying to address the maximum traffic at the site, and I've provided in the letter, let's see, yes. Daily average 2.5 one-way trips generated by dump truck traffic and an average of 8.5 by 1 ton or work truck traffic.
And that's, Greg, that's over you're referring there with the 2.5 one-way trips.
That's
As
based
I-
on a discussion that Josh and I had,
Yeah. Well, what,
based on just a realistic volume
okay,
of truck flow
so
that he
that,
feels,
that's separate from, you're separating, that's sort of like the normal
yes,
expected amount
yes,
as opposed to the 3-day average that we talked about already.
yes.
Okay, did you verify or look at the tapes to assess whether that's the estimate of 2.5 one-way trips on average is one-way trips is realistic?
Based on our discussions, I did not review all the tapes. It's,
Okay, well, I'll ask it another day. Did you look at any tapes besides May 5th, 4th, 5th, and 8th?
I did, but not with, the intent to quantify a maximum amount.
Okay,
More or less looking at them and talking with Josh to come up with
okay.
this volume.
Go ahead, John.
So we have, this estimate is based on just 3 days recently. Is that right?
It's based on, really a discussion with Josh about how much he intends to use the property.
Right, and but there were operations there for a couple of years prior, including construction and development of the site. And there's truck traffic related to that, presumably. I don't know. I don't feel satisfied that a sampling of these 3 days gives me all the information I want.
Yeah, so in the application, I have outlined basically where I've come up with this. An estimated average of 60 one-way trips per month from either a dump truck or semi-truck would occur. Assuming 24 working days per month, that's 2.5 one-way trips a day. An estimated average of 204 one-way trips from either a standard pickup truck or a 1-ton would occur in 1 month. Again, assuming 24 working days, that is 8.5 one-way trips per month, the combined average being 11 one-way trips.
Right. So that estimate is based on what, looking back at past contracts and figuring out the turns that you did in a job or something like that?
It was really based on an annual estimated use. And
Right,
then
and I'm asking what that estimated use is. I guess we might be talking past each other, so I'm just trying to get it clear, sorry. It looks like your estimates are based on this 5.4, 5.5, and 5.8
it is not.
dates.
The maximum amount is based on that, and that's the 3-day average, a maximum of twice a year. That is factored into the numbers I provided, saying 2.5 one-way trips per day on average with a dump truck, and 8.5 one-way trips per day with the work trucks.
Okay, I'm just trying to see if you reviewed any more history over time besides those 3 dates and added that in, had that affect your estimate.
Not to the detail that I looked at those specific dates when I knew Josh hauled in the most, or he hauled the topsoil those 3 days. So we just wanted to get a sense of what the maximum, trucking would be at the site.
And what I would like to see is what is the usual and customary?
And that's
That's what we're gonna have.
right, and that's what he's.
Yeah, so that's not answering my usual and customary. We're talking about 2.5 trips a day on average.
Dump truck,
Yeah,
Dump truck or
Yes.
semi.
yeah. And what are the smaller trucks used for that, that have many more trips?
guys are getting pipe, they might get a trailer for, mulching a site. They might be down there, I don't know, just to pick up materials, really. It's usually pretty quick, they're in, they grab what they need, and they're off to their job site. Or maybe it's the end of the day, they've got leftover materials, they're coming back, they're dropping some stuff off. And then they're headed home or on to the time sheet.
Another question I have is, it says here that something like 1,000 cubic yards of topsoil would be, potentially up to that amount would be stored. How many trucks worth of topsoil is that at the standard size dump truck?
71, right?
You did the math, there you go.
71, I did the math.
Thank you. You're ahead of me there. Thanks. And that could come and go.
Based on 14-yard dump truck, tandem dump truck.
correct.
Yeah. And,
So.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
no, please go ahead.
I was just gonna say, so, you know, the 132, is that what I said, loads that we brought in? More or less equates to 1,000 yards, just a little under if you.
Right, and so that 1,000 yards that you keep on site is sort of like a balance. You kind of just keep it there, and some of it may go, some of it may get replaced, but on average, you're kind of looking at 1,000 cubic yards. Is that how to take that?
Yeah, that's a good way to, take it.
Um, under the noise section of your introductory letter, you say an event like this would occur up to 2 times annually. What is that estimate based on?
It is based on those dates, 5/4, 5/5, and 5/8, the 132 one-way trips. So we're saying something like that
Is
would
it-
occur up to 2 times a
Yeah.
year.
And maybe this wasn't what John was asking, but it made me want to ask. So is there a way, Josh or Greg, to characterize what's going on that would twice a year that would lead to that heavy a volume? Is there some,
It's all based on what we have for a project lined up.
So-
I mean, there could be years, I mean, we're basing it off from annually, but there
Yeah.
could be several years where I don't haul anything in.
so it's not that like, in the
No.
beginning of the year, you're gonna do that.
No,
at the
I
end
have
of the year,
no
you're
set
gonna
in
do that.
stone. No, it's just like, okay, we won't have a project lined up that requires, we got into a situation doing a pond job and we need to get rid of the soil, so that's what we did.
Mhm.
That's not something that happens every year.
Yeah.
We are just basing it off from an annual.
Based on
Perspective.
past experience.
That's it.
that-
Yeah, the most recent before that was years ago, so it's like, this is, I think it's been 2 years, and then we had the spring and May was the most recent.
So in a way, what you're doing is you're saying. That we will not go over 2 times a year,
Yes. That's what we're saying.
so we could put that in as a condition.
Yeah, trucking this amount of one-way trips would occur up to twice a year.
Yeah,
There may be times when, you know,
And so
You might
that
call-
would be after a huge project.
yeah,
Where
if
just-
there's something lined up, yeah,
So,
yeah.
and so you're not gonna be planning on hauling like
It's not a regular
50
thing.
dump truck loads out
No,
in a short period of time.
no.
So other than building a farm pond, what other kinds of jobs would generate a lot of need for stockpiling?
Nothing.
That's-
well,
It's pond jobs.
yeah, I mean, if you stripped a bunch of topsoil off a new development, let's say it was a farm field. Right, you
Yeah.
might take that topsoil. And then haul it off the site, because they don't need all of it back. And then perhaps, 6 months later, another residential house site needs some topsoil, so maybe 10
Yeah.
10 loads go out.
Mhm.
For that use. But
But
yeah,
that depends on the size of the job.
it depends on the size of the job, correct?
In the first hearing, the last hearing we had, Greg, you had mentioned one example of this situation, and it was a hypothetical, I believe, where there'd be a job, a road cut or something, or bank work or something, where each truck might take 10 turns a day from the job back to the yard, back to the job. Is that correct? Did I hear that correctly?
Yeah, and what we've refined this to say. Let me go there. Is the project is estimated to make a maximum of 100 one-way trips in a day. What was experienced on? I think it was 5/5, I don't have them all. Which date was hauled the most, but I think it was the 5th. A maximum of 80 trips occurred in a single day. So the 100 one-way trips. Is a combination of dump trucks and work trucks.
Right, but that's not what you said in your testimony last time. You gave
Right,
us a
so-
hypothetical job where the company's trucks would be doing 10 turns a day. Each. I don't know if that's times 1 or 2 or 3 trucks, whatever.
Sure,
And
so 8 trucks could do 10 turns.
right, and so that would be that hypothetical would be taken in by this, and that would only be up to 2 times a year, 2 days a year.
2 events a year.
2 events meaning what?
Meaning the 3-day average, we had generated
So two projects.
2 projects.
2 projects, but each of those could be multiple days a year
Up to 3 days a year.
total.
Sorry. Each event up to 3 days per event, 2 events per year, 6 days total.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I just want to note that throughout your letter, you used the term contractor's yard, but there is no definition for contractor's yard in our regs.
Business
So I think business yard is what you mean. Is that correct?
Yep, that's correct.
Business yard. You say that the main lot on the main yard on lot 2 is primarily used for stockpiling soils. What else is stockpiled there?
So the soil stockpile is on lot 1.
Where
Oh,
you
yes,
come up
that's correct.
on the first hairpin turn there.
Yeah.
Right.
And then lot 2 has various equipment out there, Jersey barriers, traffic cones, pipe, Visconics boxes. Probably an excavator. I haven't been down there in some time, Josh. I don't know
Yeah,
what's
it's just
down there
pipe.
now.
Pipe fittings, storage units, there's some concrete barriers. For road work, maybe a few structures. Our mulch, hay mulch.
So clarify for me, Greg or Josh, on your site plan here, we've got proposed lot 2, 5.68 acres.
Mhm.
Is that referring to lot 2 itself or the gravel yard area?
That is the lot itself.
Okay, can you remind us what the size of the gravel area is?
I'm gonna guess off the top of my head, it's about 2.5.
Okay, does that sound right? Josh? Yeah, okay.
Sorry, Kevin, I couldn't hear your question.
Well, there's a. On lot 2, there's a gravel yard area on the site plan, and inside it says 5.6 acres. And I thought that was the entire lot too, and that's what he confirmed, but so the gravel area is smaller, about 2.5 acres.
Not necessarily right here.
No,
No. the
Oh,
one
right
that-
here, sorry.
That one. See, I was unclear because it says 5.6 acres within the contractor yard area, but that's
Sure.
referring to the whole lot.
correct.
Yes.
And you said, Josh, I think, or Greg, approximately 1.5 acres for the first. The area on lot 1, as you
Yeah.
go up that's all right.
Yes.
Keep going, John.
So does this application cover all 3 lots or 1 lot or another?
1 and 2.
1 and 2, thank you. Yes. Sorry, I'm just scanning my notes. Give me a moment.
Sure, take your time.
I was on the just looking for it here, scanning the hours of operation. You seem to be saying really it's 5 days a week, but it's really 6 days a week, isn't it? You're asking for permission to operate 6 days a week, is that right?
In the application, it does state 6 days a week, just for the flexibility. However, Josh primarily operates 5 days a week. I
But
think
are
the
you
old,
asking for permission to operate 6 days a week?
that is correct, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
With the majority of Saturdays, probably there will be no one operating there, but
But what hours are you looking for on Saturdays in the application? I wasn't clear on that either. Is it lesser or is it the same hours of operation as you've got listed for Monday through Friday?
we could put lesser, I mean.
I just want to be clear on what you're proposing,
Sure, well, let's start with the same hours, but again,
which is what, 6 to 6, was it?
6 to 6, yeah. But that's something we can definitely work with, you know, the
Sure.
reality is it's probably not gonna be at 6 on a Saturday.
But if I read your sentences right, I'm looking down at the bottom of page 6, item 12, hours of operation should conform to the standards.
Oh, here,
Business
sorry, Brett.
operations,
Go ahead.
yeah, business operations would occur from 6 to 6. However, work days generally end by 5 on Monday through Friday. People don't usually work on Saturdays. However, operations of the yard would be 7 to 5 p.m. So you're
There
asking
you
for
go.
6
So let's,
days.
yeah, let's go with that.
Where?
My apologies.
Where were you, John? Because I was trying to catch up.
Yeah.
That's the bottom of page 6, item 12, hours of
12,
operation.
okay, I've got it now. Thanks.
Skipping up just a little bit since I went down for that one, on item 10 on that same page 6. It says generally trucks will not idle. This is item 10, number 3. Trucks will not idle for greater than 15 minutes from 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. But your operating hours are 6:30. So could a truck conceivably operate or idle from 6:30 to 7 p.m. and still comport with number 3 there?
So you're,
Why wouldn't we just say that they were not idle for more than X amount of time between during operating hours?
That's fine. This is.
That says
just
7 p.m. to 7 a.m. So that means between 7 p.m. and 7 a.m., there could be sometimes generally trucks idling for 15 minutes or maybe generally occasionally longer in those evening hours. Is that how to read that?
It's out of your zoning regulations. It asks for no idling for greater than 15 minutes from 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. Given the hours we're operating, I guess they wouldn't idle at all.
At all? You don't warm up big trucks or anything in the morning before you go out for the day?
6 to 7, but at this time, Josh's trucks are still at his North Street office location.
Warming up there.
And they'll be warming up there, I believe, Josh, correct me if I'm wrong, the trucks will still be stored there.
where there?
There at the current
North Street.
North Street
Yeah, yeah.
location, yeah.
So maybe there's a inadvertent confusion here in the way 12 is written.
Sure,
It makes a distinction between business operations and then operations of the yard. When you say business operations, are you talking about the site on North Street?
no, this is the application
I know,
down street, yeah. So
Right.
guys might come and get some pipe at 6:15 in the morning,
okay,
they might come in with a truck.
all right, I was confused by operations of the yard would be between 7 and 5.
On Saturdays.
That's on Saturdays.
That, thank you. Got it, missed that.
So again, my question was regarding trucks idling during business hours, that could be indefinite.
No, not generally, I mean, they're coming with a load of topsoil to offload. And then they're driving off to get another load. There may be periods when the operator might have to load himself, so his truck idles for a little bit. Sorry, the driver has to load himself with the equipment on site, so his truck
How often
sits.
does that happen?
When we're moving topsoil, this 1,000 yards we've talked about, again, job specific. I don't have a way to quantify the day to day. Perhaps some days it's probably none, perhaps weeks it's none, and then there might be a week where 80 truckloads go out. Or a 3-day period.
And you don't idle to warm up trucks in the morning
That happens
in the winter?
You do, but currently his trucks will be at the North Street location.
Right, but you're seeking permission to do that kind of work here, right?
Not the warm-ups, because the trucks will.
Well, I'd like to ask the applicant, if you don't mind, I'm sorry, Kevin.
Well, I'm.
Sure.
You're
John,
asking for permission to do that kind of work in the future here, right?
I'm telling you what.
Yeah,
I
in the
hear
future,
from-
we would like
Whoa,
to do.
I'm repeating what you didn't hear Josh say.
I didn't
ahead.
hear that. Maybe it could be repeated, I'm sorry.
Yeah, start with your question again, John.
So you warm up trucks during the business hours before they go out,
Correct.
generally?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so you're seeking permission to do that on this site, right?
Yes, let's seek permission. At this time, trucks are generally at the North Street location. But
Right,
could
but
there
we're talking
be
about
an
this
incident-
proposal for what you hope
be
to
an
do
incident
here,
Where
right?
there's a truck at the property, on Lower Notch, then yes.
So it would be a burden if we put a condition that no idling of trucks could happen. That doesn't seem to go along with what you need to do to make the business go, right? Once it's moved here.
It would be a burden, yes.
So idling is important and probably, I'm just noticing that, not noticing, I'm just noting that up higher in this thing, in your letter, it lists the equipment storage, excavators, dump trucks, work trucks, skid steers, plows. Those are like the mechanical ones on the list. So like, those things warm up when they go out.
Really just the trucks. I mean, I guess if the excavator is running in the winter months, yes, it warms up for a time period.
Dump truck,
Dump truck, yes,
how long?
And then it's,
10 minutes.
10 minutes. And as long as we're on this equipment storage, is there, do you have a number of excavators, dump trucks, work trucks, trailers, skid steers, plows, dumpsters, et cetera, that will be stored there, or is it just open-ended?
no, it all obviously matters on projects that are going on. Primarily, our equipment's always on projects. It could vary throughout the year. If we're in a crazy cold winter or a lot of snow, you could have more machines there because we're not able to do site work. But
Would you like a total of the equipment owned by Masterson Excavation?
Yes, please.
Okay, I don't have that. I
eight
mean, Josh,
excavators,
8 excavators
I got
and 2 dump trucks.
2 dump trucks, 2 1-tons,
Did you say 2 dump trucks? Those are tandem.
yeah. 2 dozers, 3 skid steers. 5
Loader.
trailers, a loader. A roller.
Cool, thank you, that's very helpful. Back to an earlier question, so sometimes the drivers stop and load a load when they're loading a truck with, say, soil, but sometimes I don't. Do you have an employee who hangs out at the yard and is responsible for filling trucks?
No,
So most of the time, do the truck drivers idle while they fill their trucks?
Depends on the time of year.
if it's a planned occurrence where Josh needs to haul, again, a dozen truckloads, he may send a guy down to load material out. If it was one load of material, the driver would get out of his truck, get in the loader excavator, load the truck while it idles, and then drives it to the job site.
And Josh, I missed, I was trying to get the list down. You said you had 2 dump trucks, tandem dumpers. You have some 1-tons
2
too?
1-tons.
2 1-tons?
Yeah.
And then you have some pickups.
Yeah. 7 work trucks.
And I just heard from Tom, he said he'll be joining in about 5 minutes.
Okay.
I don't want to hog up any time, so I want to step aside if other board members have questions, and I want to reserve possibility of a question or two in the future.
You have any? Yes, Ted?
Yes,
Ted's got some.
yeah, I wanted to hear from Josh about what he's done to mitigate the sound of the the backup sound and the slamming of the lids of the dump trucks.
So what we did is, there's switches that can be put in the equipment. Has been in a few already.
And so that would be the equipment, that's on site that doesn't go onto the road, but you indicated in your letter that equipment that drives down the road, you can't disable that.
He's talking about dump trucks.
Dump trucks, we would not
Yeah.
want to disable alarms,
Right, so,
especially since
Those have
It's a-
puck papers anyways.
and so, but we're talking about the loader, you could do that with the loader.
Yeah, the loader has a much paper on
And that would be the one that would be making all the racket.
it, a
Right.
lot of it.
So what you're saying is you can install a bypass switch to disable that
Yeah, and shut down.
for the on-site equipment that,
Yeah.
but on a.
The excavators are primarily the ones because of the way the vision is with them. they have beepers and they can't have hush beepers.
Okay,
So you can put switches in to shut the
okay.
beeper off.
So it's the excavators that have the true
Yeah.
beepers and the other equipment on the on-site equipment, they all have hush beepers or some of them doing some of
The dump trucks do and the loader does,
has.
and the
has a
rest
hush
is
beeper.
beepers, so you have the switches to put in there.
And what about the dump truck legs?
Tailgates, there's really not a lot you can do with it. You do the best that you can. That's really what you're up against. You're talking about 4,000 pounds controlling that, when you're coming off from a pile of gravel. Trying to be gentle with that. Drivers do the best they can, and obviously that's priority, but there's no guarantees that you could stop a 4,000 pound tailgate from hitting the back of the dump body when it's re-stepped and set up to swing.
The tailgate on a tandem was 2
I
tons.
bet it, yeah, but it's at least 4,000 pounds, yeah.
But you, anything further, Ted, or? keep going?
Yeah, I didn't really get a good answer on what a typical week looks like during the summer, like, so here we are in July. What has been the traffic in and out of there?
Since our last meeting.
Yeah,
What did we discuss that the other day?
Yeah, I didn't put together, volumes from what's been in there since,
On average, we figured probably, I mean, I have 15, 20 guys. There may be 2 work trucks that go in and out, which would be in the morning, traveling and get fittings as I leave. So if you figured 4 one-way trips.
we're saying 8.5
well,
applications.
I'm a lot more interested in the dump trucks than.
Dump trucks.
We're saying 2.5 a day.
Than the 1 tons, and that's what it's been since we were here last.
No,
It's probably been more because we're basing this all on a yearly average
Yeah,
and it's busier now.
yeah. And so I have a question about what happens in the winter with plowing and coming and going from. Are you gonna be having equipment coming in and out of there in the winter to go plow?
no,
Oh,
no, I live there. We'd be plowing the yard with a
yeah,
1 ton and a plow truck.
okay.
That would be it. And we may move some equipment in to be stored there.
And so do you plow for, do
I
you,
plow all the schools.
yeah,
for the town.
and you keep that equipment on North Street?
It stays at my shop.
Oh,
Yeah, generally, guys, if there's gonna be a snowstorm, go home with a plow truck.
The only thing in the winter time that would be there would be maybe an excavator or a heavy piece of machinery that isn't, say, stored at the yard up here.
And
That
so-
we would have down there.
and so during the winter, your yard would be unused for
Yeah,
the most part.
for the most part. Yeah. A lot slower.
Brendan, do you have any? You done, Ted, or
Yes,
go ahead, John, do you have further?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I just wondered if you guys could help me work out this timeline of how we got to where we're at, which I was reviewing my notes for the meeting last time and I didn't get it down, basically. My understanding is you bought the property in 2019
Correct.
and did you commence work on it right away or what?
Over the years.
Right. We had testimony that you met with the zoning administrator in 2019. Do you remember when that was? Approximately.
There's fall timeframe, John.
And that was, and could you just generally characterize your meeting with the zoning administrator then?
So I met with Chris up there. We discussed, the road and fixing it up. Prior to A. Johnson already having a log road there for many years. And that's really what we did, clean the property up. And that was what we moved forward with. We asked about the curb cut was already there, so we carried on. The road is in the same route, same path where it's always been, just obviously cleaned up nice now.
Right, but it
That's
was
all
at
we
that
did.
time, the zoning administrator said you would need a conditional use permit to develop the site.
Uh,
He didn't tell you that then?
I couldn't have, John, it wasn't available at that point in time.
Well. Except at the last meeting, we heard that you guys met in 2019. And that at the time, the applicant was advised he needed a conditional use permit. Is that correct?
We discussed it, John.
With all due respect, Chris, I'm asking the applicant.
Absolutely.
All right, we can move on. So at some point you improved the driveway there. Was that for the house?
Yeah.
And so you came along and then you developed the laydown yard after that?
It was all part of just cleaning the property up.
Well, but constructing a laydown yard is not cleaning the property up. I'm just trying to figure out when that was built.
Well, it's flattening the yard out. It was full of holes and uneven, and I just took no different than when I hauled many years for A. Johnson fixing the road up. We did the same thing. I just improved the property.
Right, but you built the driveway at some point that you improved the driveway from the
With
Forest
material
Road.
with the material from the site.
Right, and that was for the house?
It's for the house.
And you built it to a spec. Did you have to come back and improve the road so it could handle heavy equipment?
I made it to, yeah, I just built it the way I build all roads.
So do you build it to a residential spec or a heavy truck spec?
All I do is build roads for heavy trucks, because every house that I do, you have to get heavy trucks on, so it's spec'd for heavy trucks. Everything that I do is.
And at the time, the driveway extended past the house driveway where the house driveway peels off and went out to where the.
It was in a similar location, yes.
But you improved it past that house driveway to the laydown yard that you were that you created?
No, the log header was in a similar location.
Are you saying on lot two, it's now lot two, or are you talking about further down?
We're on lot 2, yes.
Okay,
The log road extended out into,
That area, that's where
yeah,
their
I believe it was where the slope begins to pitch.
on
And then there's an existing log road that bisects it on the north and south ends of the property.
Right, so when you built out the driveway to improve it for the house, you went beyond it and made a really beefy road that went to the house?
Yeah, I went to the house location where I'm living currently.
Right, and then when did you extend the driveway beyond the house to what became the laydown yard?
In the same time frame. All I did is I made the header a bigger area that was flat instead of a mud pit.
And so the laydown yard was constructed in that same sort of operation?
The laydown yard was, yeah, it was cleaned up. So that way you drive a vehicle versus a four-wheeler in it. In the
Did
same
you have to
time frame.
remove the topsoil for that?
No, because the site has very minimum topsoil on it.
Right, so you didn't remove any topsoil from the laydown yard site?
No, it's all pretty much gravel up there.
Right, so again, I'm just trying to clarify whether the driveway construction to the house was at the same time as the construction of the laydown yard?
Yeah, they went hand in hand.
Okay.
So was
But-
go ahead, John, sorry.
Does the laydown yard serve the house in any way?
The laydown yard, no, it was basically a spot for me to put my snowmobile trailer and the things for my house.
What is the surface area of that yard?
I don't have it with me. It's probably 2.5 acres. It's in the stormwater permit.
Right.
I want to say 2.3 comes to mind.
So were you saying there was a sort of a log landing there
Yeah, that's where,
before?
yeah, that's where A. Johnson had their log landing, was in that area. I obviously made it bigger and smoothed it out with the on-site gravel. And just made an area a big parking lot because it was significantly huge elevation changes in it all.
So in the end, the gravel that you laid down or whatever it was, gravel materials and other things filled basically, that makes the base of the laydown yard. How deep is that?
Area 6 feet,
Yeah, and so all that material came from the existing pit on site?
yes.
That's on lot, is the pit on lot 1? I'm sorry, I don't have the map in front of me.
Yes, lot 1.
Um,
Oh, right.
so out by the road, that sort of first big bend that comes around, that's where I see
Yeah,
that old pit. And that old pit provided the material for the driveway and the laydown yard?
correct.
Um,
I brought in no materials for that project.
right. Okay, that's all the questions I have at the moment. Thank you.
Is Tom here?
No.
Okay. Ted, anything further? Okay. At least for the time being, that's the questions for the board. Anybody who didn't speak last time and wants to?
I have questions for Mr. Kenny and Mr. Matt.
Yeah, I know. We'll do that. I just wanted to see if there's any new statements from anybody who's new. I don't remember everybody. You're all here before now.
Can I say something about the existing business?
Yeah, identify yourself.
Yeah, Alan Lathrop,
Okay.
and for 40 years, I've lived right across from them. And I've never had a problem when the trucks leave in the morning, they come back at night. And the regular traffic in and out really is nothing.
Are you talking on North Street or?
Yeah, the North Street.
Yeah, okay.
So. They've been running it great. You
Okay.
know, been through Johnny, Jay, and Josh. All three of them running a business out there. We've been real happy with it.
So my name is Rita Jennings. I live pretty much across the street from Josh now on Lower Notch Road.
Okay.
I work from home sometimes. I have 2 young grandchildren and some my in-laws live there, my ailing mother-in-law. We're there a lot of the times when the trucks come in and out. I've seen the kids, I call them kids, as they come out and they always check my yard to make sure, see if my grandkids are out there. They make sure, you know, that they're coming out safely. Before Josh started building his home there, he would allow, we had asked and he would allow my daughter to go walking and we would walk through his yard, and I saw his as they were constructing, and all of his snowmobiles that he had out there and his trailers that go along with those, and you know, him having his camera set up, making sure always, you know, tentative, making sure that you know, they're safe coming in and out of his driveway. As I said, I work from home, and a lot of what I do is I make videos, training videos for my place of business, and I can do those regularly without the trucks coming in and out, and the window that I can open in the summer faces his driveway, so, very rarely do I have to stop my recording and, wait for a truck to pass by or, come in and out. I don't have any problems with the trucks coming in and out. I wake up in time for work. I work at 6, I get up at 6. Very rarely do I catch one of the trucks coming in and out or drive through them. And my house is right on the road. I'm not uphill. I am directly right there.
What's been your experience with tailgate slams and backup beepers and that sort of thing, other than trucks going in and out of the driveway?
I don't hear much of that. I've been at my friend's house whose, her backyard, I believe, butts up against, one of his lots, the work lot, not the house lot. And, it's not anything that, has bothered me. What it is, it's a truck opening. It's tailgate, doing what it has to do for, what you have to do for work. And knowing that beeper's going off, I mean, I don't want somebody behind that truck not knowing it's moving.
Board have any questions? John?
Yeah, speaking of beepers, I don't see a commitment in this latest letter to hush. I'm sorry, white noise beepers, I think is the term we settled on. I do see that those beepers will be switched so they can be turned off, but wouldn't that violate an OSHA situation if you turned your backup beepers off on a job site? And that's not really my question. My question is, would you be willing to make a commitment to white noise beepers on all your equipment?
You can't have hush beepers on excavators.
Why is
You
that?
have to have a beeper. As a regulation.
How about on all trucks?
Trucks can have hush beepers, which my trucks do have hush beepers. My loader has a hush beeper because it's allowed to have a hush beeper. Excavators are not allowed to have hush beepers.
And when Josh is hauling, if he's hauling a fair amount of material in, he'll subcontract other trucks. And I don't know if he can't really control what other people do with their trucks. What was that?
Yeah, they're beepers.
They're beepers, so. On the 2 trucks he owns, they have hush beepers, is what he's saying.
Anything further, John? At present?
Not at present, thank you.
You had a question or questions?
Yeah, a bunch of questions. Just real quick, Tom has one.
Oh, Tom, hey. How much?
You're muted.
You're muted. Unmute, Tom. 3 years into COVID, we're still saying.
There we go.
I'm here and I'm unmuted. Sorry I'm late. But I wanted to absolutely,
So did Tom see the updated proposal or July 20?
if it's what Chris sent us today, yes, I did.
Did you get a chance to read it?
I did.
Do you have any questions for the applicant based on reading that? We talked
I don't
about.
Let me just pay attention for a little while and catch up and then I'll ask any if I got any.
Okay, well, we've done that part because we're data clock. So if you had, I was about to turn, Jim Dumont had some questions and I was going to turn it over to him, but if you have questions as a board member about what this
Yeah.
submission was, July 20, I'd rather do it now.
Okay, well, I'm good for the moment.
Okay, what do you got, Jim?
Sure. Mr. McKinney, my name is Jim Dumont, I represent what's today.
Okay, Andrew.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Are you planning to call a noise expert or are you the expert?
I am not the noise expert. What I said in my statement, if you were listening, was that we would present some new information to the board. And then with that information, if they cannot make a decision, we could then pursue different avenues.
So you're planning to produce a noise expert before the DRB finishes this proceeding, is that what you're saying?
I'm not, I'm letting the board dictate what they would like from us.
So have you retained a noise expert yet?
No,
sort of big picture questions before I get into the detailed ones. The letter and the testimony today talk about cameras and tapes. What are we talking about? Where, what cameras, what tapes?
There's a game camera on the premises that you can see traffic coming in and out of the property.
You looked at some of those records?
I've looked at a few, yes, it's something Josh's grandfather has at the site.
It's live.
My game camera only runs for 8 seconds per movement. What is this, how long a time period does this game camera catch?
I do not have any of the details on that. This is, merely something I wanted to look at to address some of the complaints at the previous hearing and come up with a quantified volume of truck traffic on the days that Josh hauled in the most topsoil. The count I had lines up with the information Josh
Camera.
provided me as well. But there may be a relay, I don't know, but the information for the traffic volume is what we put in the application here.
So for the 3 days you testified about, you looked at the entire record of the game camera for all day, each of those 3 days?
Yes, and that was the dump truck traffic.
So what data did you produce from those 3 days about the traffic that was not dump truck
I
traffic?
didn't have any truck.
I didn't generate any.
So if there was a trailer with an excavator on it, did you count that?
There was no trailer.
Trailers are generally hauled by dump trucks.
So that
So
would be included in the dump truck, right?
that would be, yes.
How many other days, other than those 3 days, did you look at the tapes?
It was very general, and that's how we more or less based an estimate off of the traffic volume, but I didn't provide any of that. I didn't look at every single picture that was taken.
Mr. Masterson, how many days of tapes have you kept?
My grandfather has the records.
It's his grandfather's camera. And I don't know how far it dates back. I was able to get the dates specified here, the 5455.
Mr. Masterson, your grandfather is named,
John Masterson
and where does he keep those tapes?
on his phone,
On his phone?
iPhone. Yeah, they go to his iPhone live.
Is that something you could share with us? That all of the tapes that you have is going back as far as they go?
We'd want to, I don't know, possibly review some of this ourselves.
I'm sorry.
We would like to review some of it ourselves before we
That's
agree
fair
with
enough.
that.
I mean, we don't want anything that's private.
Sure,
I
yeah,
just want. What I'm looking for is a record, not just of the dump trucks,
yeah,
but of everything that's coming and going
yeah,
to that lot.
yes, and again, I didn't spend a lot of time looking at it, but as I stated, Josh was building his house. There was a significant amount of traffic associated with the contractors coming in and out of his property. He did hire his own workers to perform services at his property. So I think this time window we're trying to assess is not a representation of what's going to be at the property.
Mr. Matheson, you have a successful business, and I assume you have a bookkeeper,
Yeah,
and so you have records of all the business use of your property on Lower Notch Road for the last 12 months.
Yep.
That would tell us exactly how many business activities went on each day, correct?
between that, with employment and I was actually building a house. So my house was being built in the same time that this happened.
Right, but the business records that your bookkeeper keeps wouldn't include the truck traffic to building your personal residence, would it?
Well, yeah, because my employees were working on my house site too.
As far as, when you have a job, say you're doing excavation for the Brown residence in Bristol. You have invoices created for that, right?
I don't need a general invoice created for my own personal property.
Right. So leaving your personal property aside,
Yeah,
if you're doing work other than on your own. personal
yes,
property,
outside of Masterson's development properties, I do.
and those invoices, what's on those invoices? Does it include topsoil delivered?
Yeah, it'll have a breakdown of everything.
So there's a record of all the deliveries of topsoil in the last year, correct?
Correct, but I do not just pull topsoil out of my land. I pull topsoil from other places, other pits, other parts of the state.
At least it's a starting point, we would know the total truckloads of topsoil of the last 12 months.
I don't see you're gonna figure that out very well.
Well, I'm really interested in Mr. Matheson, and the phrase you used near the end of what you testified about. You talked about a pile of gravel. That's 3 words, a pile of gravel. And in connection with the pile of gravel, you talked about 4,000 pounds and 1,000 pounds. And I wasn't able to follow exactly what you're saying. Is it the lift, the back of the dump truck that's 1,000 pounds or 4,000 pounds? Gravel that's 1,000 pounds or 4,000 pounds?
Where did you get 1,000 from?
I just,
1,000 cubic yards
what's 1,000 cubic yards?
from topsoil.
Okay. And okay, there was a talk about how much the gate on the truck weighs.
Yeah, I guess around 4,000 pounds.
So that's 4,000 pounds.
Yeah,
The gate is on a single truck.
on a tandem axle,
Right.
triaxle.
And you,
dump truck.
and you came up with that weight of 4,000 pounds, but you're describing what it takes to load or unload a pile of gravel, right?
No,
Well,
I,
he used gravel in his example, yes. The tailgate's closed when you're loading material.
So. Do transport piles of gravel to and from the site?
No.
Excuse me, I'm asking Mr. Masterson this question.
no, there's no gravel in and out of that place.
So when you have a screen that's 3/4 of an inch. If stone is a 1/2 inch or 2/3 of an inch, it will go through the screen, correct?
Right.
You sell that, correct?
No, it's not, my property is not sold.
If what's the screening, what's the purpose of screening?
It is built into contracts.
I'd like Mr. Masterson to answer the question.
I'm representing him.
He's right.
Yeah, so the topsoil is used for Josh's Masterson excavation projects. Yes, it is loaded into a truck and taken elsewhere. It is not a private sale to you when you drive down. Nobody can drive down and give, $700 for a load of topsoil.
Yeah, I understand that.
Yes, okay.
Okay, so what is the screen, what's the purpose of the screen?
Just to break up the clumps of soil.
And then reuse it on our projects.
So
That's the purpose of screening.
if stones are 1/2 inch in diameter, they're gonna go through the screen, correct? And they get loaded into a truck, correct?
Correct.
Okay, how do they get from the pile on the ground into the back of a truck?
With a loader.
Okay, what is it, tell us what a loader is?
A loader is a piece of machinery that you see at a town shed. That's could vary in cubic yards on a bucket, 3 yards, 4 yards, 2 yards. Livingston Farms has many of them.
So how many loads does it take to fill up?
It all matters on the size of the bucket.
Okay, well, typically, how many loads does it take to fill up the back of one dump truck?
It's 14 yards. So it matters on what the bucket size is on the load.
Well, why don't you tell us what your bucket size is?
My bucket is 3-yard bucket.
Okay. So 4.5 or so.
So does that make a noise when you load this material that has stones up to 3/4 of an inch?
No.
Does it make a noise when you put it in the back of the truck?
No, what makes noise is if I'm topping my road. And I'm fixing my gravel driveway, that would be the noise that would be heard. Is when I'm taking material from our site to fix the road, that would be the noise you hear. Topsoil does not make noise when it goes into the back of the dump.
It doesn't make the same volume of noise as loading gravel.
Alright, so this is something an expert can help us with, someone who's used to determining this, the noise impacts of quarries, loading topsoil, and loading gravel, correct?
Yeah, I think it's pretty common sense, but if you need an expert,
Right, you're aware that my clients believe they're hearing loud noises when the trucks are being loaded, you're aware of that?
yeah, that was one of the complaints, but the majority of the complaints was the tailgate slamming.
And the beavers.
There hasn't, well,
Is it, Mr. Messerson, is your testimony that rocks are never loaded into the back of dump truck?
What is the definition of a rock?
You tell me, Mr. Messerson, what happened?
I don't know, you tell me, what is the definition of a rock?
Something that's not soil, that's,
Well, screen topsoil's not rocks in that.
how
So-
about gravel that's a half inch in diameter, is that ever loaded into the back of the truck?
3/4 gravel.
On the. side.
Not exclusively, it's not a gravel product, it is a topsoil product, but a particle 3/4 of an inch could be in the topsoil.
And do you think maybe that's what your neighbors are hearing?
Yeah, possibly, yeah.
So would it be useful to find out how loud that is? How loud it is at the property line, which is traditionally what's done in regulatory proceedings.
Sure.
How loud it is at the neighbor's residence, which is traditionally what's done in regulatory proceedings, and then share that information with the board.
Sure, and we asked at the last hearing what the standard is, and there was nothing given,
Definition.
there was no,
Right.
so
Well, it's-
we kind of put this on the board and there was no. Standard that we had to meet.
well, not exactly.
Sorry, there was no decibel limit specified
That's true. In this zone.
in this
in-
zoning district.
In other zones there is, I'm not sure why. Anything further, Jim?
Yes, so you mentioned that excavators have to have backup beepers, correct?
Yes,
Over the last, say, year, how often have you operated excavators with their backup beepers on? Say, on a typical day, how often does that happen?
how often have I operated? I operate a machine every single day.
With the backup?
On the property?
Yeah.
When I was doing my house site, I was probably working on it pretty frequently.
Well, let's leave the house site.
Well, the house site was been the project.
Well, maybe we can, is the house is done,
House is
right?
done.
All right, when did you finish the house? roughly?
Around the same time we had our last meeting.
So, okay, so,
It would have been
but-
past it.
and so beginning of June, you were done?
Yeah,
All right,
When did you start working on your house?
it's been a long process of all last year,
Have you been running an excavator in connection with building your house? For the
in
last-
between projects.
So how much of the excavator use was for your business as compared to your house?
Majority of my work down there was used for my house.
Okay, so how many times a day do these folks hear the backup beeper that's for the business as compared to for that?
I don't think that's even quantifiable. You want a percentage or in hours? What are you looking for an answer?
Whatever.
In all due respect, I think it is quantifiable and I think he should try to answer the question.
Yeah.
The amount that they would have heard from last year to now, probably. The amount that I've used up there for my own personal use on my own property would have probably been. 75% of the time
Okay, so 25% of the time, is that 25?
would have been used either screening topsoil. Or moving stuff, organizing stuff down at the landing. Spreading gravel on the road from the land. Screening material at the pit. That would have been the other percentage.
So 25%. You work with 12 out from 6 AM to 6 PM?
I would say we're consistently on a 7 o'clock around roughly, not necessarily 6 AM.
I know this is just an estimate, but when you're using an excavator with a backup beeper, at one time, is it like 15 seconds of backup beeper, 30 seconds, 3 minutes? How long do you typically have the backup beeper on it?
When I'm moving my tracks.
Right, so how long is that? 5 seconds, a minute, 5 minutes?
10,
10 seconds, I would think.
yeah.
You're just repositioning usually.
Yeah, you track a little bit, you work a little bit, you track a little bit, you work more.
So, and over the course of a typical day, how many times does that happen that the 10 seconds, typically a beeper sound is emitted?
It matters if we're tracking a long distance or if we're doing a short run around the house. I don't honestly know. I've never really done an evaluation on how much tracking I do around my house to know to count the beeping noise.
So if you could determine how much
Well,
it's for your business as opposed to for your home,
I'd have to redo my house site to start. Because then I need to count how many beepings it's happening to do my house site. And then I would need to start moving stuff around the yard. And then count the beepings doing that.
so again, that's something that a noise expert might have experience with, do you agree?
I can't say I would agree because then I'm gonna have to redo my house site.
What kind of noise, your experience is produced when an excavator is placed on a low-boy trailer?
What kind of noise?
Yeah.
You could have the track noise, which some tracks, they rotate smoother than others. You know, there could be a higher pitch noise with the tracking of it. But not all machines track the same. Sometimes you don't hear the tracks at all, but there are machines that the chains are looser and steel on steel can change the noise of the machine.
And there's ramps.
And you got ramps and so it's steel on steel again.
Well, you have to drop the ramps and then
Yeah,
you have to tip them back up and secure them, right?
yeah, but when you secure the ramps, you don't make any noise. And now we have my ramps are all air valves so that they don't do the old school slam on the ground.
Oh.
We have valves on our trailers, the new trailers have air valves, so that way it lets them down slowly.
And how's it get pulled back up? Is it
Air,
air? It's a like a ram of some sort?
It's yeah, it's set up on its own air compressor system.
So an excavator is a tracked vehicle, and the track is metal.
Generally, there are smaller equipment
Rubber
that's rubber
tracks.
tracks, but
So when you're loading an excavator onto a trailer, you have metal on metal, right?
still metal on metal and metal on wood.
And you mentioned also the chain noise. What's tell me more about that. What's the chain?
The chain is what the machine moves on the tracks. So it's attached to the pad, which makes the machine move.
It generates force to the,
Yeah,
transmits the force to the track.
yeah.
Do you know if your neighbors can hear whenever an excavator is loaded onto a trailer or loaded off of a trailer?
If they can hear a beeper, then they probably could hear that.
And is that noise of loading an excavator onto a trailer, off a trailer, is that in connection with your home, or is that just your business?
It varies on what I was doing at the time.
In the future, the business.
Well, since the house has
House
been
is complete.
complete, what's it? Is it it's just for business use?
Yeah,
But I mean,
What will you be using the excavator for going forward here now that your house is done?
nothing really. It's, I don't really have a lot to do down there. It's storing the equipment there is the main thing.
Don't you load dump trucks, when you load dump trucks,
so
with a loader?
it's primarily for the topsoil.
Yeah.
When that goes in and out, you know, you load
If we got
it or
screen.
an excavator
You load the topsoil with the excavator?
or a loader. You could do either.
Oh, okay,
Into the dump truck, you said?
yeah,
Or you may use one to load barriers, concrete barriers for road projects or flood work, or that could be something we would be using them for. Otherwise, they would be down there just to be stored.
yeah, because I was under the impression last time that the sound issues were mostly generated from the beeping, backing up of not the excavator, but the loader. Loading topsoil into the trucks and the banging of the truck lids.
The loader has a hush beeper. The loader.
And is the loader used more than the excavator?
Yeah.
For loading the topsoil into
Yes.
trucks?
Yeah.
Why would you use the one or the other? What would be?
Well, the loader loads faster than an excavator. Yeah. And I don't really usually have of the 8 machines that I have, there's usually not one that's just great, kicking around most 9 months out of the year. 3 months of the year, maybe a slow time, and I have a spot, that I don't need it, and I will just store it there. But you may use one to load a screen with it, and you use the loader, which when you're loading a screen, you're not tracking.
So unless you're working on your driveway or working on the yard, doing repair work on the yard, you're not gonna be using the excavator for, for all day long
No.
at any point?
No.
How long might you use it for? The most time during?
The
day?
most time you use a
Much you
motor
use it
running, screening topsoil.
Screening topsoil.
Okay,
So if you weren't screening what you call topsoil
Mhm.
on the site, you would not need an excavator, would you?
To move blocks, heavy equipment, pipe.
Yeah, concrete barriers,
Wouldn't you use the loader for that?
You could use a loader.
depends if the forks are available or if they're around.
So the excavators have to have backup beavers. But you don't need an excavator unless you're doing this quote topsoil storage, screening and stockpiling, correct?
They're gonna be stored at the site, so there's going to be noise.
Regardless, they're gonna be parked there.
Right. You can park them there. Well, let me ask you about that. Why would you need to take them off of the trailer?
Because they're 80,000 pounds or 40,000 pounds, and you can't leave it sitting on a trailer.
Why not?
Because it's not what the trailer's built for. The trailer is to move it to a job and get it offloaded. They're not built to just leave 80,000 pounds sitting on a trailer. It's. Yeah, you see them move around the yard, but it's leaving a trailer loaded is not common practice.
Each excavator is 80,000.
I have anywhere from a 12,000 pound machine up to an 80,000 pound machine.
And you leave a 12,000 pound excavator on the trailer.
Typically, those are in Bristol. Right here on North Street,
So
because they're a smaller machine.
what's the size of the excavators you have on this so-called business yard?
Varies,
Any one of the machines could be.
and
at
one
the
of the
site.
8,
So there's an 80,000, how many 80,000 pounders?
I got 180,000, I got 260,000.
Tell us about the noise from 80,000 pound excavator.
The motor probably,
Well,
but the backup alarm
it's
could be the same.
And how about the noise it makes when it's steel on steel, driving up into a loader?
Probably would be less for a smaller machine.
If you weren't conducting the storage, screening of so-called topsoil on this land, there would be less excavator noise, correct?
Yes.
Josh, how big is on the big excavator, the 80,000 pound, so it has a bucket? Is that a 3-yard bucket as well?
Yeah.
So the loader,
It varies.
so the loader bucket is there's a 3-yard bucket on the loader and a 3-yard bucket on the big excavator. What's the bucket on the 60,000 pounder?
Geez, I don't know, 2 guys probably, something like that. But I have very,
There's more.
I have
You have
many
lots of
buckets for
yeah.
everything.
Yeah, okay.
You
You can switch them out.
asked you about the backup beepers on the excavators, and you said those are necessary. I think you've also said that backup beepers on dump trucks that other people bring onto the site are unavoidable. Why do other people's dump trucks have to come onto your site? Why can't it just be?
Because I'm a multi-million-dollar business that requires more than just 2 dump trucks, and I have 15 to 20 employees. That's multiple projects going on at once, so there may be many things going on. And I may have 2 trucks running in Barry, I may have 4 running in Rutland. There's a variation. I don't have just one project going daily. I have 5 or 6 crews.
So your guys will drive other people's trucks?
Now, my guys run my trucks, but
Okay.
then I have to hire, I have subs running for me every
Got
day.
Okay,
Why can't you say, if you want to sub for me, you have to have a hush beeper on your truck.
That's an option.
Yeah, it's hard to put those implementations on other people.
So that's a-
If they're in a subcontract relationship, you have a contractual relationship. They do work for you and you pay them, correct? And you could say, if you're gonna work for me, you have to have a hush beeper on your dump truck.
Well,
We don't
truck-
have to say that.
trucks are hard to find. It's like finding help nowadays. Anyone that's involved with needing employees knows that you can't find just help. So when you limit your availability on, okay, you cannot haul for me because of this, you're not gonna have help.
Tell us a little bit more about this. You know all about it. I know nothing.
Mhm.
When someone who doesn't work for you brings a dump truck up the site, what are they doing? What's the purpose of that?
Onto the site,
Yeah,
it would be just part of dumping the material that Greg's already mentioned.
Or they could be, hauling a piece of equipment to the land or from the land. They might have a trailer load of pipe that was left over from a project.
so when someone who is a subcontractor who dumps material on the site, where do they get that material?
From a job site,
From a Masterson excavation job site.
They only deliver from a Masterson excavation job site,
correct.
and so they bring it onto your business yard, they dump it. That's one thing that other people's dump trucks do. What else do other people's dump trucks do? Why else would they come to your property?
I just explained moving equipment. There might be waste blocks, there might be leftover material that come on a flatbed low boy and they're offloaded. And then the truck leaves.
I had subcontract in all my lowboy work for big machines. So that's what
Say that again.
I subcontract in to move my big excavators.
Okay.
So you have to speak up.
I subcontract in all the people to move my big equipment,
Oh,
my big stuff,
and what do you mean by your big stuff?
anything over 40,000 pounds. So it should be my big excavators,
How many subcontractors are there in total? 3, 5, 100?
all varies on the day. You got tractor trucks that are moving equipment, you got tandems that are hauling material.
So subcontractors that come out to your property have to comply with OSHA regulations, right?
Yeah,
So why not say if you're gonna come onto my property, you have to have a hush keeper?
because I'm not gonna call up Barrett's truck and that has 3,000 trucks in the state of Vermont, and tell them that, okay, I'm limiting you to putting hush peepers on and hauling my equipment.
Well, that's a choice, that's a business decision you're making, correct?
No one can move that piece of equipment and stay. So it's not really a business decision, it's the only option.
I see, okay.
Tom, you have any questions?
I
Do
do.
not,
No?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry, I do.
Are you at a pausing point, Jim, before?
Well, yes, I think, I would like to see, and I hope the board would like to see all the existing quote tapes.
Yeah.
Because
we gotta
certainly
figure
I
out.
think we're interested in not just the dump trucks, but all the traffic that goes in and out, and not just on those 3 days.
Go ahead, man.
So we're talking a lot about noise and sound and things that are coming from Josh or Mr. Masterson's property.
Josh works.
Okay, and I keep hearing people want to know, like, what amount is gonna come out daily from his place. Has anyone taken into consideration the other homes around that also use excavators that could be hearing the same beeps, the same dump trucks, or not his dump trucks, but dump trucks that also make sound that come up and down that road regularly? That it's not just coming from Josh. There's people that live on both parts of Lower Notch Road, Upper Notch Road, whose machines come up and down that road.
Yeah, Ms. Jennings, I think you're right, and what I suggest to the board is that a traffic study be done that excludes all the other people. and only looks at the traffic from this site.
That would be great, and if they can add on the people that drive 70 miles an hour up and down that road as well, the dump trucks that don't belong to Josh. Also, and the vehicles that make the noise along the way, so I think that
How do you?
this is a lot, I've never been to one of these, this is a lot.
It's on the unusual side of our work, but every now and then we have an application that generates this level of interest. Not typically, but when it does, it does. Well, one of the things we wanted to talk about was whether or not the board felt a site visit would be helpful. Interested to hear what you folks think about that. I mean, you could get, we've done them, it's been a long time. But you can get a view from the various homes, but also the work sites and such. John had his hand up. What do you think?
Yeah, at the last hearing, the first hearing we had on this application, there was a lot of support for a site visit on the board, me included. And I believe the applicant also endorsed the idea. And I personally would have a much better idea of what we're thinking about here, looking at more than the site plan map. So I would endorse the idea of a site plan, a site visit, sorry, and would hope it would allow the neighbors to come up too. I don't know if any of them have seen it or what, but maybe that's something.
They've all seen the property.
Yeah.
They've all been through my whole
They've
property,
been-
my house. and everything.
Some have been through the inside of his house when it was being built.
I would endorse that.
Yeah, what do you think, Brenda?
I don't know, we've got to look at properties before, and we did I remember once we did, when they were doing the gravel pit.
Yeah, we did, that was the last one we
We
did that I
did.
remember.
We did a lot of, a whole day of measuring noise in various places, and
Yeah, it
then,
wasn't that long.
but then everybody ignored it.
No, no, we
You
didn't.
say-
No,
We
we,
pointed out that the standard noise along this road and that road and that road were this many decibels, and adding a couple more dump trucks really wouldn't make any difference, and
well, that,
people just sort of ignored it.
I don't know who the people you're talking about is.
Well,
We issued a 20-some page decision on that case, so
Yes, but what did we do with the noise stuff? No,
I don't remember, but it does, so what,
And we went and even looked at
You
the
know,
property.
it's,
and it was-
it doesn't matter what other people other people make or don't make of it, it's whether it's gonna be helpful to the board.
No, I think, I'm looking at this, and we worked from this sort of map all the time, and it seems very clear,
So you
and
don't feel a site this is necessary for you?
in other words, no.
Okay, what do you think, Ted?
So it would, I mean,
Site
if everybody wants to go look at it, you can all go look.
So
at
John
it.
says yes, Tom says yes,
No, yes, I say yes.
all right.
But let me just qualify it a little bit. Honestly, I am less inclined to think that I have the expertise to judge what I consider to be the critical issue here. And that is the noise off-site. In order to be comfortable with this conditional use, which to a large extent is an existing condition, which is problematic. And I'm totally sympathetic with the ambiguity that is in our ordinance and why that is problematic for the applicant. For me to get comfortable here, I'm going to need more expert testimony. I need to, I'm hearing stuff from neighbors, and I think they have a very good point. I'm hearing wishy-washy answers from the applicant, and I appreciate that it's hard because he's talking about prior conditions of building his house versus the business. I'm going to need a real expert to come in here and talk about what's going on off this site with sound and issues, and for me to get past the conditional use. So I think it's much more important that this board ultimately get expert testimony talking about the noise issues than any of us hanging out on the site, because I'm not terribly qualified to I wouldn't mind going to the site. I think that's certainly helpful, but I don't think it's the important thing here. The important thing is we need more expert testimony on the noise.
I didn't elaborate. Yes, a site visit, but I wasn't thinking of just looking around. I was thinking of, in my head anyway, something similar to what we did in the Lathrop gravel pit application where we listened to and measured from various points out on Hewitt Road and by the Merchants Bank are the two that I recall of dump trucks, including 2 dump trucks passing, so we could
was
get
kinda
a sense of it
answering-
ourselves.
Yeah, in fairness, Kevin, and I appreciate that, and I was kind of answering that as well. I don't want to evaluate. I don't want to evaluate noise. I want somebody who does this for a living with the proper meters and so forth. I know that's going to cost the applicant money, but honestly, for me to vote yes for this, I may want to put some conditions on it. I feel like we got to be comfortable that we're not putting excessive noise off this site as a result of this use. So I'm just being honest, and I know what excessive is hard because of the ambiguity. I get that loud and clear, but I'm just being honest as a board member. I'm concerned about the amount of noise coming from this use off this site. And I don't think I can judge that personally by standing out there. I don't think I'm qualified to do that. I can have an opinion.
My thought on that, Tom, was that it was helpful to actually experience the sound ourselves, but also to know then, oh, that's what 70 decibels sounds like. That's what 75 sounds like, because otherwise the number's an abstract thing. It's harder to actually translate that into.
I've sat through a lot of testimony by qualified sound experts who can do a pretty good job of explaining to you what it sounds like and so forth.
I know, it's like a vacuum or a chainsaw.
Yeah, and I want for me at least, I want to put that burden on the applicant. And we got an existing condition here that's pretty burdensome on the neighbors, or at least they feel very strongly that it is. And I'm hearing them loud and clear, and I'm gonna need some help on that. And I'll be happy. I have no problem. I'll be happy to go out on the site with everybody else, but I just wanted you to know that that's not going to be enough for me. I'm going to need expert testimony on this.
Yeah.
Okay, Brenda.
Okay, Tom, one thing is what we did on this other time we measured the number of decibels was we had specialized equipment, but you don't really need specialized people, maybe to interpret it, but to use the equipment, it was very easy.
Yeah, but we had experts.
But
there.
the second thing is, the noise that is heard from the property seems to vary according to the location around it. It's been suggested that the mountain perhaps has some, helps the echo, adds to the noise as well.
Amplifying is.
Amplifying is the word, and you're right.
I'm reasonably convinced that is the case, but and I hear what you're saying, Brenda, but I want an expert to do that, to tell us. Go ahead.
But if you are there, you can hear it. In other words, is that you look at the number on your meter, and then you also say, was that a loud noise?
Well, they're not mutually exclusive.
No,
So maybe the way.
I'm fine with us going out and evaluating ourselves. I'm just saying, at least for me, I do not believe we are professionally qualified to really do this. And I think an expert has to do that. I've been involved with big applications where both the applicant does it. Sometimes the board hires their own expert at the applicant's expense. But in this case, I think we need more definitive information to get past the conditional use standards to allow this level of noise. And in order to do it, and we may also need to put restrictions on it. We may have to say, for example, in this case, you can do it, but you can't have an 80-yard truck or what. I don't know those things, and I don't want to pretend I do. I want somebody who does understand this, who can tell me the decibel level from an 80-yard truck or a 40-yard truck and all the rest of those things. I just think we're over our head. We need expertise on this.
Yeah, I'm not suggesting we would do that just by ourselves. To me, it's a question of what comes first.
I get it that this is a gigantic burden on the applicant to do this, but I have to be honest and tell you, you're not going to get, I can't get comfortable with this without the expertise to tell me to quantify what the neighbors are talking about. Is it truly a problem? And if it's truly a problem, we've got to have remediation measures in place to get good with this. So I'm restating myself overboard, so I'll stop. But I'll be happy to go on a site visit, but I'm going to need more expert testimony.
Well, I mean, sounds like two areas of potentially expert where an expert could help. One would be traffic study, and that's easily done, a counter across the mouth of the driveway.
I respect what was done here, but honestly, a deer cam out there doing it that's not good enough. We need a counter. And I don't really care about what happened when he was building his house. He had total right to do whatever he wanted. We got to be looking forward on this.
No, I agree, and that's hard. The questions about the past, it's hard to tease out. The home construction, so it's hard for us to get a handle on it. And in some ways, it's irrelevant. And
well, I know we're creating a little bit of a nightmare in terms of enforcement, but honestly, we may have to create some restrictions here on the number of trips and all the rest of this. And before we do that kind of stuff, I think we need to have some real information.
We got your point.
Yeah, Tom, I would just add some of the testimony you missed included specifics on traffic volumes that we're proposing. So it was, significantly reduced from what was proposed in our initial.
Fair point, and I apologize for that. I may have missed that. I suspected you had done that. I'm just saying that I think this is going to require some give and take on both sides, and I want to do it. I want to do it from a fair basis, and I don't think we can do it from a fair basis without more expert opinion, not just what we all think.
Yeah, but to be fair, the new estimates provided are just that, not based on data. It's actually based on these guys trying their best in good faith to try and figure out what it is likely for the business now going forward. It's not actually data based, but the data is easy to obtain. Chris?
So the only concern I have with the data is, as of right now, they're not utilizing that property in its capacity, so.
Oh, well, that's a good point.
So we do counts today, they're not gonna be a fair representation.
Yeah, no, that's a fair point. You're not, the first lot that where you were storing and stockpiling, you're not using that currently, but are you using lot 2 for storage?
Fittings and stuff.
Yeah, so there is some traffic going in and out for that.
Can I address that?
Sure.
So I think a traffic count would be really useful to establish a non-Masterson baseline. To exclude everything that's coming and going from this lot, so you know what the baseline is, and then you can evaluate the proposed addition.
Yeah, no, I think that's traffic count.
That's more or less what we've done, right? We've just estimated it.
But yeah, right, it's not based on data, it's based on your good faith guess.
Kevin,
Right.
John's been trying to speak.
Hi, John.
Yeah, just jumping in on this, since it's relevant. I mean, I want to concur with Tom about the need for baseline data, not just on noise, but on traffic. And we have 3 days worth of guesstimation as a baseline that to me doesn't satisfy. And as was just mentioned by somebody there in the room, without the site now operating, maybe it's a good time to get baseline data, but I am not at all satisfied that we know what's going on there for noise and traffic as a baseline. Therefore it's hard to compare.
I agree. It might have been hard for you to hear. The site is operating the upper site, the lot 2, the contractor's yard part, where they store Jersey barriers and pipe and that sort of stuff. That is in operation. The first pull-off area partway up where the soil was being stockpiled and transported in and out in the past, that's not being operated.
There's
So-
no active stockpiling going on there on.
No, what, right,
Correct.
what I had put in the application too is Josh would like to have about 1,000 yards of material in the stockpile. And as he described, it fills up and is taken away, you know, as needed on project-specific sites.
But
So that soil is not there now,
It is,
You're setting them.
it is there.
and some of
But
it
you're
was
not,
used.
but you're not using it.
Not like you-
Right, it's just
not
a
going in and out.
stockpile.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's just.
But it's not being added or subtracted to.
Wow.
Not presently, but so Chris's comment, which was a good comment, Chris, or John, I don't know if you heard it, was that be aware that if you're doing traffic counts and trying to figure out what the counts for that first area with soil stockpiling in and out, that it's not gonna count that because it's not happening right now. So that was a good point.
And that's why I came up with that 3-day average to say, here's what we would propose up to 2 times a year. You know,
Yeah, I
an event like
understand.
this, and Josh mentioned, the last time he called something in was a couple years ago, you know, so.
Yeah.
I think it's a conservative estimate, but a fair one.
Mhm. Okay,
Seems inadequate for me in terms of
Okay,
grasping and just to be upfront about it.
sure.
You know,
What more would you like to see?
well,
well, I'd like to see some, I don't know, some an
I-
independent study or something. I don't know how it's typically done, but
well,
How is it done on a new project? How have you guys handled this in the past?
well,
Say there is no development there.
I can speak to that a little bit, just so
Sure.
that everyone, and this is the tricky part when I say it's a little bit of an enforcement nightmare.
Yeah,
Because ultimately Chris or somebody in the town of Bristol, if it starts to get to be extreme, it'll have to get counted. You know, you're saying, and what you also have to understand, what you guys are saying, you just can't come in and say it now. We're gonna put it in our conditional use. So we're gonna say you can't have more than X trips and so forth. And that the enforcement part is, if it starts to get excessive later on, somebody's gonna have to count it. And then we have to figure out what exactly are we gonna do? I mean, it's quite frankly not a happy or easy thing to pull somebody's, you know, their permit after the fact. But we'll have to enforce it if we do this. So that's why we need a baseline, and then you guys have to fairly be able to operate your business. And if you can live with this and you can give us a baseline and we can feel like that's good, I'm good. I'm actually a little more concerned about the noise than the traffic.
Right.
From the traffic concern, I'm concerned about enforcement. I mean, poor Chris Purley or somebody, if some neighbors start to come in and say there's more trucks than that, somebody's gonna have to count it, and that costs money. Somebody has to sit there and count trucks. That's the only way you get this done.
all right. So we can get traffic counts can be done based on the driveway, which would gather the use of the contractor's yard, but also on the road. So we have the baseline. So that's easily done.
Once we have a baseline, they agree to something, we're gonna make it conditions, that's it. So I think that part
Right.
is solved as soon as we can get to a comfortable baseline
Well,
that everybody
and-
agrees is okay. The problem on that one is the enforcement side, because
Right.
if it starts to come out of, if it starts to go off the rails, somebody has to enforce it.
Yep, that's true. You know,
Good question.
the traffic experts typically deal with things like, are there adequate sightlines from the
Yeah, well, obviously.
driveway, all that, you know, all that stuff. Is the road wide enough to accommodate 2 trucks? And, you know, those things are usually addressed as far in addition to the traffic count. Go ahead, John.
yeah, when you got a permit to build the house, did that permit application include construction of the laydown yard?
It's a gravel pad. It's a gravel parking lot. I didn't get a permit to build a gravel parking lot.
We don't think so.
I think we all know that this one got out ahead of itself. And there's no question in my mind it got it, but that's not saying that we can't fairly evaluate it now, but
No, that's
I think,
right.
yeah,
That's
this one
right.
got out ahead of itself.
Yeah, so the consensus of the board seems to be on traffic, that we need more information. We need a traffic study that assesses the baseline and in at least the existing use, and then we would have some feel for how much more the topsoil stockpiling would add if allowed. And that will take a bit of time to gather, but
Sure.
it's not hard. The traffic counters they lay the tube across the road and
And
they
are we counting the traffic onto the site or
both,
on Lower Notch Road?
both.
Okay,
You need the baseline and lower notch road to
And,
be able to,
and it's used for my personal use,
yeah,
which is my wife leaving.
yeah.
Going.
But that's.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
Actually, yeah, trust me. The gas station is visited a lot.
Yeah. That's all part of the baseline.
Yeah. But on noise, I'm hearing from John and Tom, and I think Ted as well, that you'd like some additional data from someone qualified to assess the noise impacts on the surrounding, coming from the site from the surrounding properties, and that would include the proposed uses. So if they have to dump some soil and then load some soil on that site as a test, that's what they do.
sure.
And then measure. We've already got soil there, with the sound engineer there, those sensors can be put at the perimeter, and they can do Josh can do the tasks or that are typical, backing up using the beepers, loading onto
Kevin,
a trailer.
One question I have, and maybe you can address this. With the lack of an ordinance that has a specification, which I think is a serious defect, and I think that's unfortunate that we have that. I think what we have to do is, in addition to having him talk to us about factual data, we let the expert, and I understand this expert's hired by them, so he may be a little bit of an advocate, talk to us about what he considers reasonable commercial standards on this, because we don't have an ordinance. So that we have some sense of
Right. No,
when
I
do
hear
we
you.
stop? We got to have
Yeah.
something. And they're absolutely right. Without a decibel, I don't know. So let the expert tell us what's
Yeah.
typical in other communities, and
We don't- Right.
let's use that as our unfortunately our standard.
Right,
Because we got to do something.
We don't have a numerical standard for this zone in our ordinance, but that does not mean that gathering data for the amount of noise at the property line would be useless. It would be
Yeah,
helpful.
But
And then
I
it could be interpreted.
we put the burden a little bit on the expert, or we hire our own expert. Somebody has to tell us a reasonable commercial standard in this is X decibels. We got to
Yeah.
do it because
Yeah,
we're gonna make an evaluation. Is he over it or above it? We got to hit that point. And we also
Well,
should tell the select board, fix the ordinance, put a decibel level in there.
yeah, it's PC. It's the PC, but anyway.
Well,
Yeah.
PC, but ultimately the select board has to pass it.
And the experts will say that it falls off by the square of the distance but knowing what and it's always at the property line, that's the point, and of course, if
I
big properties, there's less problem than there's with small properties, but.
And the
I think-
expert also has to speak to us a little bit about atmospheric conditions that may exist on this unique site.
Yeah, maybe whether it bounces off.
And again, we'll take it all into account and try to be fair, but we need, if that's real, let's hear about it.
Right, so it's gonna take some time to gather it, but it shouldn't be, I don't know what the lead time is to get traffic.
I would say at least 3 months, 3 months minimum.
Well, yeah,
Everyone I've talked to in the consulting world has at least 2 months of work in front of them.
yeah, okay.
I'm totally candid about that. I think this is gonna take time and it's gonna cost you money.
Chris, pull up the calendar, could you, so let's look at when's the first time we meet in early November? August is almost upon us. Remember, we have to reconvene to a date certain, we would be suspending. I'm not, so 7th, all right,
You're the first and third, right? Excellent.
I can't remember.
Neither can I think of the second, hang on, give me 2 seconds. Something I had that, I'm like, I'm not.
Well, what's today? Today's the fourth, isn't today the fourth Tuesday?
The second, so you'd be the 14th.
Yeah, all right,
Of
so,
November.
yeah, so what,
No.
I'm gonna, what's that?
Can I ask,
Hold on,
Yeah.
wait,
Kevin?
wait,
I just
let
want
me
to,
hear. Just wait a sec, Tom, because
Yeah.
Greg's weighing in here
It's
with,
the first week of deer season. Not the 14th.
well,
Sorry, if there's one thing on my calendar.
well, how about,
Shoot back to October.
yeah, let's go.
We
and
can,
look,
we
if
can
have
try
to
to
con-
make things.
Yeah,
work
if
for
we have to
October.
continue, I'd rather, all right, go ahead, Tom, we're shooting for October 24th, it sounds like, as.
yeah,
as
I
a
just
target.
wanted to ask, we want them to submit that in advance so we have some time to
Yes,
review
Sure.
it. And
Sure.
I also, in view of the fact that Mr. Dumont has entered his appearance on behalf of a number of the objectors, I think we need to make sure it's submitted in advance and he gets an opportunity to review all. that. And I'd like to do that with a reasonable amount of time before the meeting, you know. So
Yeah,
that- So take
Yes.
that into account when we're doing it. So
All right.
10 days or
Weeks, yep.
something like that.
So we'll set at least a target date for October 24th to continue this hearing till October 24th with expert traffic and noise reports distributed to us, board, and any of the other folks who've appeared who want them, and certainly Jim Dumont, by the target date being the 10th. And now it could be that is overly optimistic and we'll be told we can't make that date. And if that happens, the board would have to actually reconvene on the 24th briefly. Well, we might have something else going on and then bump it. So, but we have to continue to a date certain. And if it doesn't work because the experts need more time, so be it. But maybe we'll get lucky and we'll have everything by the 10th.
Fair enough.
So what exactly are you proposing that needs to happen?
Traffic and
by
noise.
that time? Traffic and noise.
Reports from traffic expert and. noise
And I
expert.
think we've
Sound.
given enough guidance to the applicant and as in terms of what we would like to see in those reports.
The experts this will be sort of typical for what the sound and traffic experts frequently, it's their bread and butter. So
Yep.
they'll know what to do,
Yep.
I think. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to continue continue this hearing until October 24th. With a target date for distribution of the reports as October 10th. And if we can't, we'll reconvene on the 24th if the applicant's not ready. Let us know ahead of time.
Yes.
If we need to continue, then we don't have to have,
Yeah, everyone here.
yeah, right, and we don't have, and the other folks.
Can I ask for clarification? I'm telling you.
Yeah,
This is going to be a sound and a traffic analysis when there's virtually no business being done on the street. So baseline means,
no,
well, no soil will be brought in, removed, no gravel will be sorted, no backhoes will be moving in. It'll all be Josh's stuff. Taking place in the business. No, basically, virtually no.
Well, we're gonna get, the alternative is to run the business.
Yeah, I know, but I just want to make sure everyone understands that this is going to be the lower estimate for both of us.
The experts will produce their typical report that
Thank
they,
you.
you know, lots of times the project is a projection. And so they're going to do their baselines and then use that data to correct, but they're.
The experts have basically off the shelf data. Typically, an excavator generates X decibels.
Yeah.
Typically, a truck generates X decibels. So they actually could just do a report without a site visit.
Yes.
They would enter the physics of, amount and all that on their computer and use the data off. the sheet.
On the traffic side of things, though, Josh runs the business. The traffic expert is not going to know how Josh runs his business.
No, but you get the counts.
He's gonna create the baseline. You guys are gonna tell us what you want to do. Honestly, we're gonna set standards based on that. And the
Okay.
expert's gonna tell us what you propose. They're gonna give us some estimates of what that's gonna create in view of additional decibels, additional traffic and all the rest of that. Kevin, I know I sidetracked you a little bit. Do we want to still do a site visit too sometime before the 24th?
My sense is that we should wait and see what the reports say, and we can always figure it out then if we need to.
Fair enough.
It may be that we collectively decide we've got enough and the site visit wouldn't add. I think we take it one step at a time, is my thought.
I think a site visit got some value. I'm very pleased that we're doing this. This is more important, but yes, but if at some point you want us to come out and look at the site, by all means.
I think the board can cross that bridge when we come to it.
Fair enough.
Hold on, Brenda.
Can I ask something? So we've talked about traffic study. So you're thinking about, as well as the driveway, the Lower Notch Road, and is it the Lower Notch Road that's, yeah, it goes around the whole thing, yeah. In other words, there are trucks going on both sides of the
We don't need to, right, but the proposal is to run the trucks down to 116.
Yes.
The traffic experts will look at our conditional use standards, which are typical,
Yeah,
and about what they have to show, and they'll gather the data and produce an opinion.
okay, so there is a traffic expert as well. That's what-
Yes.
Oh, okay,
Yes.
I didn't get that.
Yeah, so,
Yep.
so Helen, my point is that the business, I'm disagreeing with the, nothing happening there. The upper lot, where the Jersey barriers and the pipe, and
Yeah.
that stuff's going in and out all the time. The thing that's not happening right now is topsoil going in and out.
Yeah.
But we can manufacture real world data of what that sounds like, because there's a topsoil pile there. And so Jim's right, they have this stuff, yeah, this is what a excavator produces for decibels, but our standards, even though we don't have an numerical standard, it's always at the property line. So it's helpful to have some real world testing done if that's what they want to do.
Sure.
Because topography matters. And we've got some possibly interesting topography out there that has that's having an effect on how the sound is perceived. So I think that would be smart, but it's not our job to
Yep.
tell you what your your experts know what to do.
Sure.
You've got the sense of the concerns of the
That's why they're
board
experts.
and the neighbors, and there are, the more data you can provide to give comfort as to what's happening at the property line and how the sound is being perceived, all the better for you. All right.
Yes, thank you.
Quick question, Mr. Chairman. I don't know
Yes,
if there was a swearing in or if that was even necessary at the beginning tonight.
Well, everybody's still under oath. And as far as testimony is concerned, and it doesn't apply to Jim, he's asking questions. We have a couple of minutes to get through.
So we're finished with this section.
We've got the dates to reconvene.
Thank you.
Yep. What's the first one, Chris? I don't remember.
It's April 25. I'm bringing it up right now for you.
I would move that we adopt the April 25 minutes.
I gotta find them.
Oh, you haven't read them yet?
There we go.
Tell them out.
There we go. Here, I got them. Do you want to look on with me? All right, that was me, John, Tom, Josh is not here, and Brenda. So Ted's not. We have 4 people. Ted's not one of them.
Yeah, hang on.
And this was the proposed PRD, PUD, whatever, and we sent them back to the drawing board. It was the preliminary review on a subdivision, so.
John's moved, I'll second.
Sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Sorry. It was moving a second has occurred up on.
Okay, so we've got a motion in a second.
Mm-hmm.
All those in favor? Aye. Brenda says yes, Tom says yes, and John says yes. All right, so that's 4-0, Peggy, of those who can vote on that.
Thank you all.
Thanks, Greg. Take care, Josh. All right, so the next,
You don't think people have not observed
It's somebody-
it.
the
A lot of meetings.
Yeah, well, I think part of the problem is they picture the area, but they also think that it.
All right, let's go, come on,
Finish up.
We're almost there.
let's, June 13th, this is me, John, Brenda, Ted, not Tom.
I would move to adopt those minutes.
And that was, it was, Jim and Christy Whitcomb, that was a 2-lot subdivision.
You said this is what, June?
June 13,
June 13.
and the next one,
Don't seem to have a-
That's it. Those are the only two we have.
Just those
That's it?
two.
yeah, okay, somebody moved?
John made a motion.
All right, I'll second.
Second.
All right, Ted seconds. All those in favor?
I,
Aye.
Aye.
Brenda?
Yeah.
Brenda says yes, so 4-0 for that, Peggy. And with that, we're adjourned.
And Peggy, tomorrow I'll copy the list of attendees and send it over to you at some point.
Great, thank you.
Are we, I think we're caught up on minutes now, right?
Yeah.
Holy smokes.
That's
it's
amazing.
been a while.
Motion to adjourn.
I was gonna
We have a
say.
motion to adjourn.
I don't think we need one.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I mean, I
By
never
consensus?
understood why we don't have a motion to convene.
Okay, so we're good. I'm gonna shut us down. Have a good night, guys and gals.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.